From loyal dogs to exotic wild creatures, humans have kept animals as pets for centuries.
Fetch.
Forming bonds with creatures both domesticated and untamed. But what happens when these bonds break under the weight of an animal's primal instincts?
St. Louis man viciously attacked by chimps while doing his master's thesis research.
In this collection of stories, we explore 15 shocking cases where pets turned on their owners, leading to tragic, and at times almost unbelievable, outcomes.
I am Charlotte Nash. I'm here today to make sure that what happened to me.
I'm from 911.
Send the police!
What's the problem?
The chimp killed my friend! He ripped her face off, please! He killed her, please!
Terry Vance Garner and his pigs, 2012 Oregon.
A shocking story from the coast, a farmer eaten by his own hogs. KVAL's Ricky Marinon says the sheriff's department is now trying to figure out how this all happened.
In a chilling incident in 2012, 69-year-old farmer Terry Vance Garner was discovered partially consumed in his hog enclosure on his farm in Oregon. Known for his affinity with animals and his dedication to pig farming, Garner had entered the enclosure to tend to his pigs, but tragically, he never came back out. His remains were later found by a family member, sparking questions and shock within his community. The cause of Garner's death remains uncertain, but it's speculated he might have suffered a sudden medical event, such as a heart attack or stroke, which caused him to collapse within the pen.
Now, authorities are leaning towards a heart attack or an animal attack as the reason for Garner's death. However, they say because of the strangeness of the situation, they are having a criminal investigation.
Another possibility is that he was accidentally knocked over by the pigs, which can weigh several hundred pounds. Garner's vulnerability in that moment could have led the pigs to act on their natural scavenging instincts, a behavior not uncommon in animals under stressful conditions.
Being attacked by this bear, he's coming back, and I'm bleeding, and I'm gonna die.
Kellyanne Walls and her black bear, Teddy, 2009, Pennsylvania. In 2009, Kellyanne Walls tragically lost her life to her pet black bear Teddy in an incident that shocked her community and emphasized the inherent danger of keeping large predators. Walls, who owned several exotic animals, was cleaning the bear's cage when the attack occurred. Known for her hands-on approach with her animals, Walls had kept Teddy since he was a cub, likely believing that their bond would prevent any danger. However, this tragic event illustrated the unpredictability of even long-captive wild animals. As Walls began her routine cleaning, her children and a neighbor watched nearby. In a matter of moments, Teddy suddenly attacked her, pinning her to the ground. Despite desperate attempts by the neighbor and children to distract the bear and pull him off Walls, Teddy's size and power were simply too overwhelming. The neighbor ultimately shot the bear in an attempt to rescue Walls, but by then, it was too late.
Release. Ready? Fetch.
Sandra Piovesan and her wolf dogs, 2006, Pennsylvania. Sandra Piovesan, a dedicated animal enthusiast, was known in her Pennsylvania community for her deep connection with her wolf dogs.
Today we are returning to see the wolves of Norway.
Over the years, Piovesan had amassed a pack of 9 wolf dog hybrids, part wild wolf, part domestic dog, believing she could bridge the gap between human and animal through close contact and care. These hybrid animals, while visually stunning and often loyal to their handlers, retain wild instincts, making them notoriously unpredictable. Piovesan invested much of her time in her pack, maintaining a high level of involvement in their daily lives. Friends and neighbors recalled her passion and the unique bond she claimed to have with each animal, viewing them as family. However, in 2006, Piovesan's trust in these hybrids proved tragically misplaced. During one of her routine visits to the enclosure, the animal suddenly turned on her in a brutal and unexpected attack, leading to her death. By the time authorities arrived, there was little they could do beyond controlling the animals. Marius and his hippo, Humphrey, 2011, South Africa.
Hippos are one of the most dangerous animals in the world. They kill approximately 500 people each year in Africa.
Marius, a South African farmer, had an unconventional pet relationship with Humphrey, a 2,600-pound hippo he had raised from infancy. Known for his affection towards the animal, Els described Humphrey as like a son and believed he had successfully tamed the massive creature. Hippos, however, are known as one of the most dangerous animals in Africa, responsible for more human fatalities than many predators due to their territorial nature and immense strength. Els's relationship with Humphrey gained international attention, as many were both fascinated and concerned by his closeness with the hippo. Despite the warnings from wildlife experts and the challenges of domestication, Els continued to interact closely with Humphrey, even allowing him to roam freely on his property. He was often seen swimming with Humphrey and engaging in close physical contact, dismissing concerns that the animal might one day turn on him. Tragically, in 2011, those fears came true. Humphrey attacked Els, dragging him into the river where he was later found dead, showing clear signs of a hippo bite. This incident underscored the fact that hippos, despite raised in captivity, retain their wild, aggressive instincts and are notoriously difficult, if not impossible, to domesticate safely.
I am Charla Nash. I'm here today to make sure that what happened to me never happens to anyone else ever again.
Charla Nash and Travis the chimpanzee, 2009, Connecticut. In 2009, Charla Nash's life changed forever when she was attacked by Travis, a chimpanzee that had been raised in a human home by his owner Sandra Harold in Stamford, Connecticut. Travis was well known in the community, often spotted riding in cars and appearing in local television commercials. Despite his calm demeanor in familiar settings, Travis had increasingly displayed signs of aggression as he aged, which experts believe may have stemmed from frustration and a lack of socialization with other chimpanzees. On the day of the attack, Nash arrived to help Harold contain Travis after he escaped. However, the chimpanzee lashed out with terrifying brutality, severely injuring Nash's face and hands in an attack so vicious that it left her permanently disfigured. The incident made headlines, drawing significant public attention to the risks of keeping large, intelligent primates as pets. Following a harrowing recovery and extensive surgeries, Nash courageously shared her story.
Tell you sitting across from you how dramatic the difference is.
I've come a long way.
Igniting debates over the legality and ethics of owning such animals. Pam Weaver and her camel, 2007, Australia. Pam Weaver's death in 2007 at the hands of her pet camel stunned Australia, highlighting the often overlooked risks of keeping large, powerful animals as pets. Weaver, a farmer's wife, had received the young male camel as a 60th birthday gift, but over time, the animal began displaying increasingly erratic and dominant behavior. Though camels are generally seen as gentle and even-tempered, especially when trained for transport or tourism, their behavior in captivity can vary dramatically, particularly in young, unneutered males. On the day of the incident, the camel knocked Weaver to the ground and attempted to mount her in a display of dominance common among male camels. Tragically, Weaver suffocated under the camel's weight before help could arrive. Her death shocked many who were unaware of the risks associated with domesticated camels, sparking conversations about their potential for aggression, especially when they reach maturity. Mark Vogle and his exotic pets, 2004, Germany. Mark Vogle, a 30-year-old from Dortmund, Germany, had a passion for exotic animals, particularly venomous creatures. His apartment became infamous in 2004 after authorities discovered his body surrounded by an extensive collection of exotic pets. Vogle's home was filled with tarantulas, lizards, scorpions, and snakes, with his prized pet being a deadly black widow spider. Tragically, Vogle's fascination with these dangerous creatures ultimately led to his untimely death. According to the investigation, Vogle likely suffered a bite from his black widow spider, resulting in a venomous reaction that immobilized him. As he lay incapacitated, his other pets, including lizards and snakes, began to scavenge his body, unaware of the boundary between owner and prey. By the time authorities entered the apartment, much of his body had been consumed by the creatures he had loved and cared for, creating a nightmarish scene that shocked even seasoned responders. Following Vogle's death, the collection of exotic pets was safely removed, but the incident prompted significant debate regarding the risks of keeping venomous or potentially dangerous animals in private residences. Dan Brandon and his python, Tiny, 2017, UK. In 2017, Dan Brandon, a 31-year-old reptile enthusiast from Hampshire, UK, was tragically killed by his pet python, Tiny. Brandon's 8-foot python had lived with him for several years, and he was deeply attached to the snake, often posting about her on social media. Known to handle her frequently and share a close bond with her, Brandon's love for his reptiles was well known among friends and family. However, this close relationship came with inherent risks that would ultimately prove fatal. On the day of the incident, Brandon was found dead in his room with Tiny nearby, and an investigation revealed that he had likely been asphyxiated by the powerful constrictor. The coroner confirmed that Tiny had wrapped around his chest and neck, either in a display of affection or due to mishandling, which can inadvertently trigger a snake's instinctual behavior to constrict. The fatal outcome brought attention to the often overlooked risks associated with handling large constrictor snakes, especially for owners who may not fully understand the animal's instinctual responses. Ronald Huff and his monitor lizards, 2002, Delaware. In 2002, Ronald Huff, a 42-year-old from Newark, Delaware, met a tragic end in the company of his unusual pets, several large carnivorous monitor lizards. Huff had a fascination with reptiles and kept a collection of monitor lizards known for their sharp teeth, powerful limbs, and sometimes aggressive nature. Huff's choice of pets may have seemed eccentric, but he valued them deeply and took pride in caring for these exotic creatures in his home. Unfortunately, Huff's affinity for his reptiles turned deadly when he failed to check in with family members for several days. Concerned, his mother alerted authorities, who arrived to a horrific scene. Huff's body was discovered in his home, partially consumed by his monitor lizards, which were roaming freely around the room. It was later determined that Huff may have suffered a medical episode, such as a heart attack, and collapsed, leaving him vulnerable to his carnivorous pets, who likely began scavenging out of hunger. His reptiles, whose survival instincts are strong, likely saw no difference between a deceased animal and their usual meals.
The American grad student fighting for his life after being attacked by 2 chimps in South Africa. Each of those chimps.
Andrew Oberly and a chimpanzee attack, 2012, South Africa. In 2012, primatologist Andrew Oberly suffered a near-fatal encounter with 2 chimpanzees at a sanctuary in South Africa. Oberly, a graduate student studying primate behavior, was passionate about his work and had traveled to South Africa to conduct research on chimpanzees at the Jane Goodall Institute Chimpanzee Eden. However, during a routine observation, he crossed an inner fence meant to separate humans from the chimps, unaware of the danger that awaited him on the other side. As he entered the restricted area, 2 adult male chimpanzees attacked, dragging Oberly under the main fence and into their enclosure. In a brutal assault lasting several minutes, the chimps inflicted severe injuries, including the loss of fingers, a foot, and multiple facial wounds. Oberly's strength and survival instincts helped him to endure until sanctuary staff intervened, managing to fend off the chimps and get him to safety. He was quickly airlifted to a nearby hospital where he underwent multiple surgeries and a prolonged recovery process. The incident underscored the formidable strength and aggression chimpanzees can exhibit, especially when their territory or safety feels compromised. In the wild, chimps are known for their fierce protection of social hierarchies and territory, and even in captivity, they can be highly unpredictable and dangerous. Chimps have muscular builds and incredible grip strength, capable of overpowering an adult human with ease. Unlike some other animals, their aggressive behavior is not limited to defense. They may attack with the intent to incapacitate or kill, driven by instincts that are impossible to fully suppress in a controlled environment. Oberly's case echoed other similar attacks, such as the widely known 2009 incident involving Charla Nash, who was severely disfigured by a pet chimpanzee in Connecticut. Like Oberly, Nash suffered life-altering injuries in an attack that reignited debates about keeping primates in captivity, whether as pets or in sanctuaries. Al Simon and his pet bull, 2003, Minnesota. In 2003, Minnesota farmer Al Simon faced a tragic end due to an encounter with an unexpected aggressor, his own pet bull. Simon, a seasoned farmer, was well accustomed to working with livestock and had raised his bull from a young age. While he was experienced in handling large animals, he likely underestimated the bull's natural instincts, believing that familiarity and frequent interaction would help tame the animal's aggressive tendencies. This incident, however, would highlight just how unpredictable bulls can be, even for the most seasoned handlers. On the day of the incident, Simon entered the bull's enclosure for what he likely thought was a routine task. But bulls, even when raised in close quarters with humans, retain strong territorial instincts and an often unpredictable aggression, particularly when they sense any slight disturbance in their environment. Simon's bull, weighing over a ton, became unexpectedly agitated and charged at him. Bulls, known for their immense strength and territoriality, can become aggressive with little to no warning signs, especially when in close contact with a perceived intruder or threat. Despite Simon's familiarity with the animal, the bull's strength and sheer mass proved too much for him to handle alone. The attack resulted in fatal injuries, emphasizing the volatile nature of bulls and the real risks farmers face. Bulls possess powerful muscles, particularly in the neck and shoulders, which allow them to strike with considerable force. Furthermore, their instinctual behavior to protect territory or assert dominance over perceived threats can make them dangerous, especially when they reach full maturity. Ruth Hodgej and her pack of dogs, 2013 Pennsylvania. In 2013, Ruth Hodgej, a Pennsylvania resident, faced a tragic fate at the hands of her own pets, a pack of dogs that included several pit bull mixes. Hodgej had raised these dogs herself, yet she often voiced concerns about their increasingly aggressive behavior. Over time, Hodgej noticed the dogs exhibiting dominant behaviors and even aggression toward one another, which left her uneasy. However, she loved her pets deeply and was hesitant to part with them despite the risks that came with managing a large pack of powerful, spirited dogs. On the day of the incident, Hodgej entered the area where her dogs were kept. The circumstances of what triggered the dog's aggression remain unclear, but it's likely that a small action, possibly an attempt to control or reprimand one of the dogs, escalated quickly. Dogs in packs often display heightened territorial and defensive instincts, and when an altercation starts, pack mentality can kick in, leading others to join the fray. Unfortunately, once the aggression began, Hodgej's presence and familiarity with the dogs offered little protection, and she was fatally attacked before help could arrive. This devastating incident illustrates the challenges and risks associated with maintaining a large group of dominant dog breeds. Dogs kept in packs can revert to instincts that prioritize their role within the pack hierarchy, which sometimes results in aggressive displays. When one dog becomes aggressive, the others may join, driven by a primal group dynamic. Many trainers and animal behaviorists caution against keeping packs of large, strong breeds without adequate socialization, training, and separation when aggression becomes evident. A.J. Merik and his Bengal tiger, 2003 Illinois. In 2003, A.J. Merik, a big cat enthusiast from Illinois, tragically lost his life to his pet Bengal tiger. Merik, who had a deep admiration for these majestic animals, raised the tiger from a young age. Despite his love and familiarity with his pet, Merik faced an unfortunate reality that many exotic pet owners overlook. Even when raised in captivity, big cats retain their wild instincts and unpredictable behaviors. Merik had ignored safety protocols that professionals typically recommend, assuming his bond with the tiger would override its natural instincts. On the day of the incident, Merik entered the tiger's enclosure for a routine feeding, but something went terribly wrong. The tiger, which could weigh up to 500 pounds, suddenly turned on him. With immense strength and sharp claws, the animal quickly overpowered Merik, resulting in fatal injuries. Such incidents underscore the fact that regardless of an owner's perceived relationship with a big cat, the animal's instincts can be deadly in a matter of seconds. The tragedy also sparked renewed scrutiny of the laws surrounding private ownership of big cats. At the time, some states, including Illinois, had few restrictions on keeping such exotic pets, a reality that led to a surge in privately owned tigers, lions, and other dangerous animals. However, following incidents like Merik's, several states tightened regulations, emphasizing the potential hazards to both owners and the public. Bobby Hodge and his wolves. 2004, Texas. In 2004, Bobby Hodge, a wildlife enthusiast from Texas, died in a tragic incident involving his beloved pet wolves. Hodge, captivated by the beauty and mystery of wolves, had devoted years to caring for a small pack in captivity. His fascination with these animals led him to create a personal sanctuary, hoping to bridge the gap between humans and one of nature's most misunderstood predators. However, even with his commitment to raising them, Hodge overlooked the inherent risks associated with handling such powerful instinct-driven animals. One day, as Hodge entered the wolves' enclosure for routine care, the wolves turned on him unexpectedly. While the details are unclear, experts note that such attacks are often triggered by changes in pack dynamics, stress, or instinctual behavior. Wolves, even those raised in captivity, have highly social structures and complex hierarchies, which can be disrupted when humans attempt to interact closely with them. Tragically, Hodge's close contact with his wolves placed him in a vulnerable position, ultimately leading to fatal injuries. Hodge's death emphasizes the dangers of handling wild animals with pack instincts, especially those as strong and unpredictable as wolves. In captivity, wolves may suppress some natural behaviors, but their core instincts, particularly their pack mentality and territoriality, remain. This incident also highlighted the importance of understanding wolf behavior and respecting the boundaries needed to manage these animals safely.
Ziggfried and Roy.
Ziggfried and Roy's Tiger Attack, 2003, Las Vegas. In a performance on October 3, 2003, one of Las Vegas's most famous magic acts, Ziggfried and Roy, took a shocking turn when Roy Horn was attacked by Manticore, a 7-year-old white tiger. Siegfried Fischbacher and Roy Horn were world-renowned for their dazzling shows that featured exotic animals, especially big cats. Their show, an iconic part of the Las Vegas entertainment scene, attracted fans from around the world who marveled at the seeming harmony between humans and wild animals. However, that night the illusion of control was shattered. As Roy performed alongside Manticore, the tiger unexpectedly veered off script, seizing Roy by the neck and dragging him off stage. Manticore's 400-pound strength proved overwhelming, leaving Roy with life-threatening injuries. The immediate aftermath saw Siegfried and stage handlers desperately trying to stop Manticore, but the damage had already been done. Roy was rushed to the hospital where doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize him, ultimately saving his life. However, the attack left him with long-lasting injuries that impacted his speech, mobility, and ultimately ended his career as a performer. The public reaction was one of shock and disbelief. Fans and animal advocates debated whether the attack was an instance of wild animal unpredictability or an accident that could have been avoided. Some speculated that Roy's health might have played a role, as he reportedly suffered a stroke just before Manticore's aggressive behavior. Siegfried later argued that Manticore was not attacking, but rather attempting to protect Roy, noting that the tiger hadn't fully bitten down. Nonetheless, the event changed perceptions of animal performances and raised questions about the ethicality of using wild animals in shows. In the aftermath, Siegfried and Roy's legendary act was indefinitely suspended, and the attack set off a series of industry-wide changes. Many entertainment venues and circuses began to reconsider the role of wild animals in performances. Animal rights organizations used the incident to advocate for stricter regulations on exotic animal ownership and performing animal safety. The event's impact even resonated in Hollywood, as public sentiment shifted towards CGI animals in films rather than live animals on set.